Hello everyone, Giltar here with the second of three videos discussing the various areas of the hobby of toy collecting that we all share. Now this second area of discussion will be on the third-party product industry, specifically with Transformers products in mind. Now I've got two main areas that I've given some extensive thought to as of late. The first area is simply the legitimacy of such products on the market, as things that should be sold. The second is their legitimacy in collections of toy collectors. Are these legitimate? Are these valid toys for people to have in their collections for whatever reason? So starting off with the first point, I do think third-party products do belong on the market, but I also think that their most appropriate role is really simply to fill in the sort of areas of collector needs or collector desires that the official companies, in this case Hasbro and Takara Tomy, that they don't fulfill. Often collectors have a specific type of image or a specific type of, theme that they have in mind for their collections, and more often than not it connects with their nostalgic memories of the cartoons, the comic books, the video games, whatever it is that they derive their fandom from for their collecting of a specific franchise toy line. And in this case, for example, with Transformers, there are so many branches of fiction, the original cartoon series and the subsequent cartoon series that have come out after, comic book, adaptations, video games, all these other areas of fiction in which the Transformers characters have either been redesigned from time to time, or we see specific characters that are created specifically for those branches of fiction. And the thing is that it's so vast, Hasbro and Takara Tomy are not going to be able to devote their essentially their budget to making every single character, every last character that was ever portrayed in Transformers fiction. And so for toy collectors who are looking for that little extra special something to round out their own collection to fit their needs, sometimes Hasbro and Takara Tomy just won't make certain things that these collectors are looking for. And that's where I think third-party companies, that's where I think they should step in and sort of take up that sort of bit of responsibility. Now, to further clarify, I think third-party producers, these companies, they're able to do such things, first of all, because of the whole intellectual property situation going on. A lot can be argued about certain products being, I don't know about legal, but at least they're not outright theft in terms of possibly infringing upon intellectual property that is owned or created, rather, or whatever, however you want to put it, by companies like Hasbro, Takara Tomy, and the other companies that they've worked with to create works of fiction. I really come down to two things, and to me, I think it's best for third-party producers, for these companies, to essentially focus on making accessory sets or upgrade kits to further enhance official products, to make them a little better in the eyes of certain collectors, to modify base official products, base official figures, toys, into something that is more visually appealing to a certain collector because they want a certain character depicted, or even in some cases the functionality. There are certain design points of official toys that are probably not that great, and there have been at least several examples of third-party companies coming in with upgrade parts that allow these official toys to actually function better, to work better. And I think that's a great thing. I think these are things that are not sort of responsible in terms of business practice for Hasbro or Takara Tomy to do. I mean, honestly, they're not really going to make any money back by releasing update kits or upgrade kits on the market. Not enough, if any, of their normal customers, being younger children and their parents who buy these things for them, would even give these things a second glance or even really care. Most kids are just happy with the toys that they get. It's the collector demographic that such products would cater to, and it, to be honest, is a small demographic. we as collectors do put a lot of money into the industry, but ultimately we are overshadowed by the main customer base. I mean, that's just the reality of the situation. Now, there are certain cases where I really don't believe it's necessary, for the most part, for third-party companies to make full standalone action figures for the most part. For example, we've seen certain companies or a certain company make very much a recreation of an existing toy, to the point of where they're essentially replicating or copying a toy mold, and they're essentially making a knockoff because it is a direct copy of an existing toy, and it isn't as good in terms of production quality and all of that. That is an extreme example of where I think third-party companies shouldn't tread into. For the most part, third-party companies, they do make standalone figures, but of toys really that don't exist. For example, we're seeing a lot of combiner or gestalt or gestalt toys coming out through third-party companies. We've seen two examples of a Devastator homage, two examples of upcoming Predaking homages, a Superion homage. We're seeing a Menasor homage. We're seeing a lot of these come out. And the toys that are being made by these companies, for the most part, are not replicating an existing toy. It's true that they do really directly design their toys from existing concepts, but they are essentially making new toys. And I'm not really opposed to that. I don't think that's a problem. However, I do think that really walks closely to the line between sort of doing your own thing in the third-party market area and coming really close to sort of competing with Takara Tomy, with Hasbro, because again, these are, while they are homages, they're very much recognizable as character concepts and designs of existing things that have come out years ago. And who knows if Takara Tomy and Hasbro will ever someday come up with these things. Now, it's not that likely, but it is possible. Shogo Hasui, which is a toy designer, he's a toy designer for Takara Tomy and Hasbro. He worked on the Masterpiece 10 or the Masterpiece Optimus Prime or Convoy that you see on camera here on screen, and other products. And he, in a recent interview, has said that he himself, at least, has interest in bringing Bruticus to the Masterpiece lineup. So, someday we might see something that is more faithful to the original incarnation of a certain combiner. And if there's already a third-party product out there that has essentially done this, that's where Takara Tomy and Hasbro might look at it as something that they might want to take legal action against. So see, that's the problem with making full-fledged action figures, full-fledged toys, is that it could always come back to bite you in the future. So I'm not really against it. I'm not here to talk about whether one's right or wrong or whether people should buy them or not. I'm just saying, from my observations, there are certain things that warrant caution, and there are certain things that I believe are fairly safe to produce. Now, taking a look at the situation overall for, in terms of myself, I collect third-party toys from time to time. More often than not, I do get upgrade kits and sets, but I have several standalone, fully-fledged toys, action figures, basically from Fans Project. And I think they're really great things. I think they serve a fairly specific role in my collection that Hasbro and Takara Tomy are not fulfilling right now. And ultimately, too, another consideration is price point. Can I afford them? At this point, I can. I don't have any problem in terms of my finances of buying such things. And I think that's really what most people should look at when they look at whether or not they should buy third-party products. They should ask themselves, does it offer them something that they really want, that they can't get through Hasbro or Takara Tomy toys at this time? And the second thing you could really consider is it worth the price to them? Can they afford it? And will they be able to buy it without any sort of buyer's remorse or any sort of purchasing regret? I think that's pretty much all I need to say or want to say about the whole legitimacy of third-party products on the market. Moving on to the second point I mentioned previously, do I think third-party products have a place in collections? Are they worthy products? Do they stand up to the requirements that collectors have? I think the short answer is yes. As far as I've seen, the quality of third-party products have really come a long way since their early forays into the market. We've seen vast improvements in the quality of the sculpts, the molds, the materials used, the design and engineering of these toys over the past several years. In fact, the improvements are so significant at this time that many in the collecting community who once viewed these as sort of novelty products to get to sort of to be sort of like the cherry on the top of their collections, they're viewing these things, these toys from the third-party industry, as sometimes superior products to the official toys. Now, I don't necessarily agree with this view, just simply because these products, they're not apples to apples or oranges to oranges with the official products. Let's consider the different business models that official companies of mass producing toy companies, how they operate versus how a third party company operates. So a mass production toy company, they basically literally mass produce. They make as much as they can and cater to as many customers as they can in order to make their money. They have a wide range of product price point and thus product quality with respect to complexity of design and complexity or quality of the parts used. Not saying it's bad, but for example, you're not going to see die-cast, for example, in lower-end Transformers toys these days. You'll only see it on higher-end and thus more expensive toys. Now, the approach that a third-party toy company would take is that they're able to use higher quality products and higher level or more intricate and complex design and engineering because they have a very narrow or a very specific customer that they're catering to, which is the adult collector essentially, the person who can afford to buy these things on their own. They're not, these third-party companies are not catering to the average child who really would think these things are neat, but it's not really meant for them, and they frankly couldn't afford such things. So with that in mind, Hasbro or Takara Tomy, they can make things like Hasbro, like Masterpiece toys, on occasion. They don't make it as a mainstay of their product lines. And really, when you look at it, third-party companies and Hasbro, Takara Tomy, for example, operate on a similar level. They both make limited production runs of their higher-end toys. They both aim at a specific customer base with these higher-end, more expensive toys, and they both market and advertise pretty much only to a specific customer base with these higher-end offerings. Now, you could argue that Hasbro and Takara Tomy, as these large manufacturers, can offset some of their production costs. That's true, but I don't think it's to a degree that's significant enough to simply say they just don't make products as well as third-party companies. Let's take the Masterpiece Lambor toy. People outside of Japan would know it as Sideswipe. That is a Masterpiece level toy that is priced at about $60 US. I believe the manufacturer's suggested retail price for it is 5,800 yen. And at current exchange rates, it does amount to be just over $60. Now, from what I've seen from third-party producers up to this point, I really don't think that they could offer a similar product at the same price point. I think at best, they would have to price it at $90 or above for something that has the same level of design and engineering. And that's not to say, again, that one side is better or worse than the other. I just think each side of this sort of situation has very specific business models and very specific manufacturing models that they have to follow in order for them to operate a viable business. When you want to go apples to apples or oranges to oranges, I just simply think both sides, whether it's official or third-party product companies, they make great products. And in the end, we as collectors, as fans, as simply consumers, we benefit because we get best of both worlds. If we want more affordable products and more available products, we can go to something like Hasbro or Takara Tomy for their Transformers toys. if we have that desire for something more specific, something that is more collector oriented, we can still go to Hasbro or Takara Tomy when they offer things like Hasbro's and or Takara Tomy's Masterpiece lines, Alternity, the Biotech and Alternator lines. We can go to that, but we also have an extra option in that we have this third party industry that we can look to as well. I think at the end of the day, despite all of my talking about this, really the debate is a moot point when you think of the fact that, again, I win as a collector. If I have the money and have the means to purchase these things, they're available to me. They're an option. Whereas looking back 10 years or more, you would never see such options. You basically had to go to the official companies, or whether you have the skill and expertise to do it, or you go to someone else, you'd have to go to toy customizers, which at best, is also a very expensive endeavor. Custom toys are not cheap. So I think right now, that's all I'm going to say about this topic. I could go on for hours about it. I love discussing these areas of consideration for this hobby that I share with all you out there. This thing that we call toy collecting. So just as before, I welcome all responses, whether it's in text form in the comments section or video responses. I really appreciate any sort of response you guys can offer to me and help this discussion go on. Just as usual, thank you very much for your time. Have a great day, and I'll see you at the next video.